First, I'm going to talk about the cons, like the disadvantages with this pathway. Then I'm going to talk about the pros and how you can use it to help you and see if this pathway is actually a way for you. So the first disadvantage is when you actually come here on a visitor visa, that a lot of people don't tell you is that you need to get a job that is a knock job or an LMIA job, right? And LMIA jobs are not easy to find. Anybody who have been looking for LMIA jobs knows that they are hard to find. Secondly, if you take this pathway, then you can run the risk of losing status while in Canada. And if you run that risk to lose status while you are in Canada, then you cannot do anything else, because basically you would have to update your status again, right? And when you're updating your status, you're always updating it to whatever you were when you just arrived in Canada, basically. So if you came here as a visitor and you lost status, then they're going to update it back as a visitor, and then they're again going to give you a timeline in which you need to leave their country, right? So that's something to note. When you do come here as a visitor and trying to get that job, you run the risk of losing status. And even if you decide that, okay, you're going to get married to someone, you have to file to update your status, basically, before you can do that. And it's a long thing, right? Those are the two top cons for me. Those are the two top disadvantages. But let's look at the positives now. So it's cheap. A visitor visa is probably like $250 to $300, I think, the last time I checked, right? So that's cheap, right? So you don't have to think about hefty school fees when you're thinking about that pathway. So that's a plus. But the thing is, how you get those LMIA jobs. When I looked into it, people say, oh, there's this site or there's this, but I've seen so many people got scams because they're trying to find LMIA jobs. But LMIA jobs, you can find them, like, for example, if you know someone who needs a nanny, that's one of the easiest way to get somebody to get that LMIA job, to take care of someone's kids, someone who you know. A lot of people don't want to do that, let's be honest. And how many people do you know actually in a position like that to employ you as a worker? And that's the thing, for someone here to employ you as a worker, then they'll need to prove to IRCC that they can take care of you for the entire 2 year or the entire year or timeline that you're going to be here for, employed to them. Because there's another program too. After someone says, okay, you're going to help them out, you also have to have certificates to prove that you had some experience with childcare, right? But that's not hard to get anyways. But the point is, knowing someone to get that, that's hard. That's not easy. That's like, whew, okay, and really, right? A visitor visa, when you get a visitor visa, right, I believe you get up to 6 months, up to 6 months in a country, right? I always thought about it, and I'm like, if I should use this program, right, I would have selected a program, like, for example, something in care, because those are in high demand. Something in care, like a healthcare aid or a care job, and those programs are normally to 6 months. Some of them are more, some are 6 months or less. I would have selected a program like that, because Canada's rule is that once you're doing a program that is less than 6 months or less, then you don't need a student permit, right? You don't need a study permit. So I always thought, okay, I would do a program like that. I wouldn't come here from the beginning of the program, so I would consult with the school and see if I could do some of it remotely, because a lot of these schools, given because of the pandemic, you can do things remotely. But the care part, no, you have to be in the country, and you will need insurance while you're here and doing that. And there are a lot of independent insurance companies who will insure you for the 3 months that you are here doing that practical part of your schooling, as long as that part is on, like, like when you go and get your CPR, it's on the dummies, and it's not anything that has to do with going in a hospital or working with real life patient and patient data. As long as it's, you know, those practicals where you actually do in a lab, that you will not be in danger to any resident here, right? So I always think about it and say that's the way I would go, because hey, that's a no-brainer, because when you're finished, it's easier to find LMIA jobs in care than it is for a lot of other pathways. Another way to look at it is to look at provinces like New Brunswick. New Brunswick always, and I tell you always, they always have a lot of programs for job opportunities in different fields. So for example, like a truck driver, if you come here as a visitor and you want to learn how to drive a truck and to get that certificate in Canada to say, oh, you're licensed to drive a truck, if you have that certificate, I am sure you can find an LMIA job in New Brunswick or Nova Scotia, one of those provinces who are always hiring truck drivers. That's another way. So the pro here is that you need to look for the specific jobs that are in need in these remote provinces are normally best. You can look in the bigger cities too, but the bigger cities, you have a lot of people to compete with, and you're going to need more time than 6 months, honestly, unless you have someone here helping you out with the research. You need to find the job opportunities that these remote provinces are always advertising, and see how you can get a certificate, something that is cheap or still affordable, that when you're finished you can take it to an employer and say, hey, I have this experience. Even with nursing, for example, I know right now British Columbia is paying for all internationally trained educated nurses. They waived that fee, which is normally like $3,700 for nurses to come here and get licensed, right? And they're trying to speed up that process. So it's normally a long wait time, but they're trying to speed up that so that we can get nurses into the hospitals as soon as possible. So if you're a nurse also, there's opportunities here for you in this visitor visa to work a pathway, but you will need to do your exams and pass that license exam, but it is now subsidized highly. Also, if you're not a nurse, maybe you just finished high school, but you know you're thinking of doing something, you can come here as a visitor, look at your opportunities in the remote areas to see, okay, maybe I can do this little certificate, it won't cost you much, and then aim and try to get an LMIA jobs. Even with these provinces, they often have a lot of job fairs just for jobs that they want to fill. And trust me, if you come here within that as a visitor, and within 6 months you stay here legally, right, you don't do anything that you're not supposed to do, always ensure that you know your rules to whatever pathway you come here. So if you're a visitor, there are some things that they tell you cannot do. Be aware of them. Yes, be aware of them. So once you come here, and if you get a little certificate, right, trust me, who do you think the government, or who do you think these provinces are going to hire? They are going to hire you over someone who just has their credentials in their home country. They're going to hire you. So I really believe this visitor to worker pathway is actually a pathway that is really good. But the thing is, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, you don't need money. Yes, it's one of the cheapest ways, but also you need people. People need people. So if you have a loved one in a province or in a particular place in their life now that can put you up maybe for 3 months to help you to do your own research, to look. And let's be honest, a lot of persons who are even professionals, you're in your good job, you can't just take 3 months off or 2 months off just to do research. So you would really have to be researching home before you come here on vacation to look for opportunities. And one of the things I like to say here, just to be specific, have a plan in place, a smart plan, right? Do your own research before coming here first, and ensure that when you're coming here, you come here in the right season, because there's a season for everything. So whichever province you are interested in, one of the way you can do your research is to go on that province's website to see what time of the year do they normally have their job fairs, what are some of the opportunities, is there something there for you, and then you try to come within that time, try to apply within that time, try to carry out your resumes, go leave them off in offices and places that you need to have your resume to give you that opportunity, right? That's how you plan, that's how you be strategic with this pathway, because as you see, Canada wants people, but you have to be strategic, and you're going to need to be willing to risk some of your cash. If you don't make a plan and put some money out there and try something, it probably won't work out for you. But you have to be willing to risk it and go for it. You can go to IRCC's website to see more information on what you need to get that work permit. I do know that you need to have an LMIA job, or a job that's LMIA exempt, meaning you don't need to have an LMIA for that job. It's exempted. Also, you will need to be within status. You will also need other things from your employer. Being a student, an international student pathway is a more certain pathway, and even with that pathway, people come here as international students, and I've seen it. People have to become refugees because they did not plan wisely, right? Or they probably didn't go to the DLI, designated learning institution, so they can't get a postgraduate work permit. So this visitor to work a pathway, it is uncertain. There's nothing set in stone, right? But if you plan wisely, have a plan, have a way how you're going to go about it, I'm telling you, you can be a success story. You can be a success story. You hear it here first. You can be a success story. Just ensure that you do the work that you need to do to get the result that you need to get. Because remember, I just told you that, hey, you're going to come here as a visitor, right? You're going to probably have to pay for Airbnb, because most people who are coming to Canada do not have family. That's the truth. A lot of you guys who are coming here, let's be honest, you don't have any family. So you're going to have to pay for an Airbnb in that area. That's money to consider. That's research that you have to do to see, okay, what's the cost for Airbnb when I'm planning on going there, right? Also, you're going to have to buy grocery and buy food while you're here, whether it's 2 weeks to a month. You're going to have to take care of yourself while you're here. That's going to be money that you need to plan to have, right? And another thing that might shock you, and that's why I would say apply before you even come here, and keep applying even while you're here, because a lot of times for many persons it does take a little longer time to get the job that they want. I've heard stories where people apply for work permits even from being home, and then when they get here, their work permit is a closed work permit, so they can't even work for anyone else, and then their employer probably have moved on with someone else. You want to be planning, you want to be strategic, and you're going to have to take a risk. You're just going to have faith and risk it. You're going to have to have faith and take a risk. But all the best to you on your journey, and remember, look into it. It probably is your way out. So maybe you're trying school and you realize school is not for you, but you can try that pathway. It is a way out for somebody. You just have to do the research and try the things I just highlighted. All the best to you on your journey.